Have you ever wondered how builders do these insane projects? Like how they make renders of their builds, what mods, plugins, resource packs, or shader packs do they use? There are timestamps in the video description if you are looking for a specific topic. I'm new to building, so I've actually interviewed a professional builder to answer these questions for us.
My name is Horace. I've been a professional builder for coming up on 4 years now. And then I kind of got my first break when I got a job for a team that worked on the Minecraft marketplace. Decided to take YouTube a lot more seriously and kind of treat it more as a job instead of kind of just a side hobby. There's not too much to tell, unfortunately. I'm not the most interesting person in the world. I really like building and I feel like I'm pretty good at it.
Plugins are the most widely used and powerful part of building. So let's talk about that first. There are free plugins and there are premium plugins. Luckily, there are only a handful of paid plugins that are usually only used by professionals. But here's what Horace has to say about plugins.
As far as builders go, it kind of varies. Some builders are dependent on some tools and some builders aren't. I'm a pretty well-rounded person, so I use a lot of Arceon, which is a premium plugin, so like $15 a month. It's basically just an addition to FAWE, which is basically world edit. There's a lot of confusion when it comes to the building world where people think that FAWE and world edit are the same thing. But it's like comparing a BlackBerry to an iPhone. FAWE is much, much better when it comes to resources. It has a lot more command. You can do a lot more with it. Then there's Essentials, which is super important for like movement, so you can like set your speed when you're flying, being able to go through walls, doing /top to go to the top of your build, etc, etc. There's fast async voxel sniper, which is basically just the better version of voxel sniper. Builders utilities, there's Gobrush and Gopaint. We have Metabrushes. I use Multiverse core, which basically allows me to make multiple worlds on one server.
Alright, to summarize, here are the plugins that you want to use. If you can't afford the paid plugins, it's okay. They're helpful but not as necessary as some of the other ones. I recommend downloading all of the plugins listed here. If you have to choose between one of the premium plugins, I recommend Arceon. Okay, now you have some plugins, but how do you run them? This is where things can get complicated. You have a handful of options though. The first of which would be hosting a server on your own computer. The second would be playing on someone else's server, either a paid server or a free server, or paying for your own server. Let's talk about the free options first. You can join a free server such as Builder's Refuge, where they give you most of these plugins to use. Otherwise, your only option would be to host your own server on your own computer, and your computer needs to be pretty good to run it. If you have a decent computer, this is what I recommend doing. If you want a video about how to set up a server like that, let me know in the comments. Okay, now the paid options. You could either pay to have your own server or pay to get access to a server like Horace's, where you pay $5 and you get access to all of the plugins, including the paid ones that cost $15. So in conclusion, I would recommend paying the $5 for Horace's server because the value is just so good. Arceon alone is $15. But if you want to go the free route, then you should host your own server using Purpur. It's the fastest server software that you can use right now. Builders really only use performance enhancing mods such as Sodium. Of course you can use mods that add more blocks to the game, but Horace touches on this when we talk about resource packs later on in the video. So what mods should you use? Here are the mods that you should use. It's what most builders use and what I'd recommend. Alright, I'll keep it short. Most builders use shaders and there's a lot of good options out there. Here's a couple on screen right now. Horace uses Cilders. When you download shaders, I recommend looking up on YouTube what settings to use for them. For resource packs, if you're going to be sharing your build with anyone else, then it's not recommended to use one. Like for example, on most servers, everyone is experiencing the same thing, and using a texture pack to build a map that would be on a server, for example, would take away from the experience. But here's what Horace has to say about it.
Unless I'm paid for it, never. In my 7 years of playing Minecraft, never have used texture packs in my building. I've always used default. Default is king. Absolutely. It's the experience, right? I build experiences a lot of the time. And one of the things that I learned with that is that if you're making an experience, you want the experience that you're creating to be the same experience that the person is getting. And texture packs will automatically augment that. So unless they're using the same exact texture pack that you use to build, then they're not going to get the same experience that you intended them to have, if that makes sense. So that's why I only use default. Now, I do use shaders a lot of the time to enhance like the final product, obviously, because it makes it look nicer. It's eye candy, right? But my builds still look good even without shaders, and that's the most important thing.
So how do people make renders? Well, the one in this video was made using Blender. And Megray has a fantastic tutorial on her YouTube channel explaining how to make this. I'll link it in the video description. But here's what Horace has to say.
You can use Blender, you can use Cinema 4D, Chunky. Like, I think Cinema 4D is the ones that the big render artists do. The ones that get paid like $200 per render, something like that. So it really just depends on what you know.
Builders that use external programs usually use them to edit the world with tools such as World Machine and World Painter. And other builders just use external programs such as Blender to make renders for their builds. Learning building can be very difficult, so I recommend watching YouTube channels like Megray and Horace. But here's some advice from Horace himself.
I'd say for inspiration, Google's a good option, Pinterest is a good option, Planet Minecraft is a good option, Builder's Refuge, the Builder's Refuge Discord is a really good option, Twitter's a really good option. Getting a lot of inspiration is really key to when you're building. It's very, very helpful. There's a big difference between confidence and having an ego. It's something that I struggled with really, really hard, because if everybody around you, if you're just an average, like above average builder, then you're gonna have a lot of people, like especially if you like share it with your friends that don't really know how to build, you're gonna have a lot of a push towards, oh, you're just so great, oh, you're this, oh, you're amazing, blah blah blah, and that can really give you an ego. And then when you hear something bad about your build, and it's not even that bad, it can hurt you a lot. So building confidence in yourself to where you need to understand that you're in a process, you're on a journey. When it comes to Minecraft, everybody starts somewhere. I literally remember not even knowing that you could place slabs on top of each other. I didn't know how slab mechanics work. It's basic Minecraft, and I didn't know how that worked. So everybody starts somewhere. Have confidence in yourself. Keep going. Enjoy the journey. Don't just look towards the end. Look at what you can do.
Thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions at all, just leave a comment. And a huge thank you to Horace for coming onto the channel to answer these questions for us. Check out his website, linked in the description below.